And so Yahweh Elohim created this man in his own image and likeness. Again, repeating it. In the image of Elohim, he could male and female. I'll just tell you a little secret. The word image and the word likeness are actually on one level code words to mean male and female. Again, image is male, likeness is female. I can't get into that. Someday I'm going to be teaching some deeper Kabbalistic classes, and we can get into all that. But he blessed them, and Yahweh said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and have dominion. Over what? Why does man see? The other thing I'll tell you, okay, over these species, the fish of the sea, the birds, again, and over every living thing, these other things that creep, that move upon the earth. All right, so again, and he's summing up again the things that were made on this 6th day, all right, including what had been made previous, the fish. But if you notice one thing that is not listed in here, that he's have dominion. So let's go through this again. Man is a fish, the birds, over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And I believe 7430, that's referring to the creeping things. The Leviathan and the Behemoth, the Tan, the serpentine race, there's no dominion over here. It's not mentioned. Okay, that's just sort of, let's just keep that in the back of your mind there. Okay, so and Yahweh said it was good, and he goes into another whole about the feet. Let me just make sure I got everything over here. Now let's go to, I want to go now to Genesis. It's good for food. I just want to say, because I think the Father reiterates again, and this is every beast, every living, okay, living. Forget beast now. It really is the word. And the reason why it's sometimes translated age, I have to say souls. Souls are made up. We're not talking right here. We didn't talk a living soul. Well, you see, this is why you have to, there's so many parts to this thing. Adam was first made with the dust of the earth, right? And then this program of the living soul, the soul was put into him, and he became a living, right? That's sort of the process. But I just don't have time and space to go into all that. So, but again, the birds in the air, the creeping things, if you keep looking at these, and this is everything that has breath, nephesh, 5,3,4, soul life, okay? This is everything that he created. Now, I want to go to, I just want to quickly, again, recap. These are all in the first chapter of Genesis. This is huge. And once you get these words and their roots, and then you start going into the text and going into the stories, you know, and then and checking, you'll see, oh my gosh, this dragon, what we're talking about. Or when it's using fish. Like I said, these prophets are not confused. They very systematically carry through on these concepts, all right? But let's go now. I want to go into Genesis 7:14, because now we're going to go back to this. And let's go back to, now this is Noah. Let's now that we've laid the foundation, let's go to the time of Noah and the flood, okay? And like I told you, if you can understand this thing from the point of view that these are species, and that before the flood, this is what people are beginning to, there was a total genetic re-engineering of all the species going on. All right, chimeras and hybrids and giants, and until you had Noah had a pure genetic bloodline, and his sons. All right, and then if you're even more a little up on the whole thing. Wait a minute, I thought I went through. You'll find out that Ham. We're going to find out Ham had some hybrid Canaanite bloodline genes in him, and that's a whole part of the story. So now once you can get this straight, you can begin to track, and then we can really again isolate again who were the Cain, who was Cain's father, what was going on with the Nakash and Eve, and the progeny from that, and how that progeny is in the human race, You know, and this is the whole point. She was telling us the wheat and the tares are planted together right now, and you can't really tell them physically. You can't, by looking, you can't tell people apart, different species. Remember, these are programs. These are soul programs, all right? You can't see them. I tell you what, if we lined up 10 computers, go to, here we go, well, if you close all the computers down and you have somebody go and tell me, okay, which program is or which company made that? Is that an Acer? Is that a, oh, I don't know, an Apple? Is that a Mac? What kind of computer is that? You know, you can't tell by looking. You've got to open it up and see what program it runs, all right? There's a lot of analogies that can be made. Now, we're going to go to Genesis 7:14. We're picking up, this is the story of, let's go to chapter 7, where Noah, you know, they're beginning, Yahweh said to Noah, you know, build an ark, you know, it's time, I got to take care of all of this. But he starts to tell him that you and your household, I have alone seen righteous for me. Now, this is really going to help, because look, we're out of kindergarten, people. We're not talking about little Noah's Ark now and how he's bringing like animals 2 by 2. You know, the little elephants, 2 little elephants, 2 little tigers. No, we are talking about how Yahweh made provision, and this is again very important for the end times, okay? He's making provision for those who will quote unquote get in the ark, how different people from the different species that be different can make it through this next judgment if you're in the quote unquote ark. Noah, he said, take with you every clean animal by sevens, a male and his female, and of the animals that are not clean, 2, a male and his female. All right, now let's look at this. See, because what we're talking about here, Yahweh is making provision to bring clean, and clean is a word you need to understand in its fundamental way. In this, it's talking about an ethically pure, a moral, a Torah-keeping, living soul. Okay, now everyone knew Torah. This is the whole point. We have Noah taught Torah, not Noah. Enoch taught Torah to his whole generation. If you read the story, everybody heard it, right? They had choice. Through Shem, the Seth, the righteous son of Adam, and his generation taught Torah. So it's not like all species have here Torah, and everybody has free will to make their decisions if they're going to live. So they become clean or unclean. Oh, it's very deep. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But what my point I want to make in this, let's just go to this. So Noah's being told you can take onto the ark with you clean 7, which is an interesting number, 7 clean, 7 pairs of clean species, and 2 pair. See, what I couldn't figure out, really, I was looking at, is it 4 unclean animals altogether, 2 male and 2 female, or is it just 1 pair? Because he said 2 pairs, so I don't know. For some reason, my brain, I can figure some stuff out, but that was way beyond me, beyond my pay grade. But anyways, let's go to the Hebrew. Take with you 7 pairs of every animal. Again, this is, we're not talking about beasts. We're specific. We're talking about 929, animal. It should say livestock. It should say cattle, technically, all right? Because that's what this is. Domesticated, pre-Adamic men. These are real people that just do not have the breath of life. See, if you get down to this, when it comes to the soul levels, the behemoth humans have nefesh and they have ruach. They do not have neshama, the breath. The breath is what Yahweh breathed into Adam, which set him apart from all those other species, okay? And actually that breath entitled him to, as the firstborn, he needed to have a little more intelligence, a little more higher programming to run this whole cosmos, okay? So he was getting like the PhD download of the program. But this is a behemoth. So he's going to take 7 kinds of behemoths onto the ark with him, clean, morally, ethically. Now there's a story, and I looked for it, and I've read it a couple places. I just couldn't put my fingers on it. Maybe I can find it and put it in this afterwards, where it talks about how the animals, what Noah did was he stood at the head of the ark, And as they came, because everybody knew what was going on, he's saying, look, there's a judgment coming, there's a flood coming, you better get on this ark, whatever, and or you're toast. So many animals, and he told them, come, but they had to, as they came with their female partner, male and a female, it's just you got to have two to repopulate. They're being very systematic here. Oh, I could say something I want. Anyways, they had to bow. This is how Noah was told through the wisdom to figure out if this one you're bringing on board, this pair, is clean or unclean. Because if they will bow to you, if they will recognize the status of the Adamite, of Noah, then they're clean, then they're morally pure because they're on board with the program. All right, they're not in rebellion. If they won't bow, you're not taking them. You can only basically take 2. Okay, so this is a really important thing that's going on here. So he takes 7 of male and 7 females pairs of the behemoths. So this is what I said. If behemoths are cattle, let's just say he's taking many sub-Adamites, sub-species out of them. So cattle, so you got oxen, you've got sheep, you've got goats, you've got, oh my gosh, I don't know, the different categories that are under cattle, oxen, different kinds. All right, so he had a good gene pool mixture. The whole point is, let's preserve this, but let's get a good gene pool. But you're going to bring proportion. The ratio is 7 to 1. Clean animals, and again, we're just creating. It's behemoths. Okay, this is what we're talking about. It's all the same root word. All right, that are not clean, take 2 each. All right, so I guess it's 2. So there would be 4. 2 unclean males and 2 unclean females of this behemoth species. Behemoth species. Okay, so the ratio is 7 to 2. Okay, so that's very important to understand the storyline too. So what I wanted you to see there, again, he's taking this, and this process goes on where he's told to take the birds. Now we're down to birds of the air, 7 male and 7 female, to keep alive their seed, their DNA code. All right, and 7, that's a good number to repopulate, to get the full spectrum of that species, that genus. All right, taking male and female of their seed on the face of all the earth. Okay, so we just did the birds. And again, I'm not talking about literal animals in a sense, because sometimes, again, is this just really, it's so hard to explain these things about, because everything has deeper meanings. Yeah, and there were 3 levels. Okay, and but I'm sure you did have, because there's always a Peshat level meaning. There is he did have to bring literal birds and cattle on there. But on the esoteric level, this is how they just parallel each other. And if you get one level, you should maturely be able to move into the next level. All right. But now we're not talking about the literal animals. We're talking about the species of living souls of other sons of Elohim, all right, that he made. So there were a lot of people, in much more so, that came through the flood, all right. But one thing we have to understand about our text, they're very, well, I had to use the Jew-centric. They're Adamite-centric. They really are written for and from the purposes of preserving the legacy, the history, the future of Adam and his descendants and his offspring. Okay, so we did the fish, we did the birds. Now I keep going. This for after many days, I will cause it to rain, and then he would. So I forget what we said. He brings on the 929, the behemoth, the creeping things, and the birds, and which is really interesting because why? Because we know that there was a dove on as part of the story on the ark. Or maybe did that? Yeah. But birds can, but what's not on here, you need to understand, are fish. There's no fish that he's bringing on the boat because the fish are in the water. And this gets down to, again, dag, the root fish. Fish are a problem. Fish represent more the underworld. Oh, there's so many. But but then he would bring the birds on the ark. Can you imagine trying to contain? I mean, birds need to fly, but here again, so this is another indication that we are talking sort of on a different level. These are living souls. These are that have a body and a form and are pre-Adamic. All right. So, how do I do this? Okay, so I think I unpacked all I want to do that. Let's go now to Genesis 9:8, and let's pick it up again there. All right, so just so you can see, it's very methodically tracking. Now, this is another interesting part where you begin to see how if your eyes are wide open, you begin to see. Now the flood's over, and everybody's coming out of the ark, right? Now, Yahweh Elohim spoke to Noah and said to his sons with him, all right, because the storyline he went, for the Adamites, it was Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives, right? Now, Genesis 9:9, it goes, and behold, I will establish my covenant, Berith, with you, and with your descendants. Now, this is important, and with your descendants after you, and the Hebrew word is seed. It goes in, if you can see, semen, offspring, descendants, posterity, children, all right? So let's get the bigger context. He is making a covenant with descendants, okay? Now, in the next verse, it goes, and with, okay? Again, living, here we go, our words, living souls that are on there, 2416 and 5315. Living, che, nephesh, living creatures that have other humanoids, really that have prana in them, that have ki in them, that have chai living in them, okay? That is with you. So again, he says, you got birds, you got these 7 clean birds pairs and 2 unclean bird pairs. You've got livestock now. You've got behemoth, behemoth. I think there's the behemoth and the behemoth. There are different words. The livestock, the cattle, the domesticated, the Gentile. This is really, to me, the closest pre-Adamic. Maybe this is Cro-Magnon man. I don't know. Well, and every, again, beast of the earth. This is, again, the word living. Again, it's translated beast. It could be should be every soul that's on the earth with you that go out of the ark. Every, again, living soul, every living soul on the earth. What's important when you study this thing deeper, what you will see is he's establishing. Now, what I want to say, I will establish my covenant with you, and will never cut off all flesh again by the waters of the sea, and there will never be a flood to destroy the earth. Now, but this covenant, if I just do, he's making it not only with the Adamites, but with all these other species on the ark. So this covenant, this is the mystery behind Sukkot, behind the fronds, the 4, and I believe the word is the 4 species. Remember, there's 4 different things that if you're beginning to study, to do the feast or study, you'll find out that on Sukkot, the first day you make and you bind them together, you get these 4 different, this is another way in which they coded according to trees. I mean, there's so many ways that they have coded this concept of the different species, not just by calling them by animal names. Like I told you, I'm just doing the animal apocalypse keys for this principle, but they've done it according to trees, they've done it according to the fruits and spices, the harvests of Israel. Oh my gosh, there's so many, couple of other ways in which they have encoded this exact same information. All right, but this is the covenant, which Yahweh Elohim will make between Yahweh and you, Noah, and every nephesh, every living soul that is with you. See, so we've got to start to get this bigger understanding of what's going on. We really are trying. This is not a children's story. Even though it's good, you got to get the kids started in kindergarten. Okay, fine. But hey, like that's why we're losing our youth, both Jew and because we stay in kindergarten. We can't give these kids anything. We were not allowed to. Oh my gosh, why would you start to teach? You believe that there's some hidden mystical meaning into text. It's all fundamental. Let's all be a fundamentalist, and this is all there is. Come on. These kids, that's why there's a famine in the world. People are starving for this, all right, for such a time as this. Okay, you've got these generations, all right? Again, this is what we're talking about, these other offsprings, these descendants that Yahweh is making a covenant again with, and it's my rainbow, which, can't even begin to, the cloud. It's a sign of the covenant between me and the earth, and it's also the living souls that are in this category. He did not make this covenant again with the dragons, with the tan category, the species, okay? This is what's so important to understand. They're being left out, and the fish are being left out of this, and this is important part of the storyline. He's only making it with 4 species, renewing this covenant of these people that live basically on the earth plane, right? The creeping things that live right under or right on, the birds that are right in the behemoths, the Bahama, and the Adamites, okay? Now, let's go to a couple more. I hope this isn't going to be too long, but let me go through a couple of, let's go to Jonah, because this one just, I mean, if you don't see it by now, you just don't want to see it. Jonah 3, 7 through 8. Okay, now we're at Nineveh, and there's going to be some judgment time, because again, these people are not living Torah. This is the point. Yahweh tells Jonah, the prophet, to go to Nineveh, a very pagan Gentile city, basically, and you know, they're going to come under judgment. They're getting totally wicked. All right. So, okay, so no, you know, Jonah doesn't want to do it. There's so much deep mystical, again, understanding in this, the belly of the whale, he goes down into Sheol, he goes into, okay, into the underworld, his punishment. I mean, he just like, okay, fine, you don't want to, this is where you can end up. If you don't want to obey me, Yahweh says, fine, I got places for you in the afterworld. Is this where you really want to end up? Okay, Jonah comes to his senses. He goes to Nineveh. He gives this decree to the king and the nobles, and they take it on. These Ninevites, and this is part, repent for a season. They really get convicted, and they think, oh my gosh, they're really, you know, we better clean up our act a little bit, okay? So the king and the nobles, now, so after the king and the nobles decide, okay, we're going to take this word seriously, and we're going to repent, and we're going to try to get back into the high God's good graces, okay? And we're saying now, this is the decree that every man, Adamic man, okay, and beast, okay, 292, forget beast. Again, we're talking about light, we're talking about cattle, we're talking about the pre-Adamic man with them. I just wish I had a better word for this. The Gentiles, because eventually they do become Gentiles. This is the latter word for them. Okay, but not quite yet in the text. And again, flock refers to man. We know we're sheep. We hang out as flocks, but herds are beasts. Cattle hang out in herds. This is, again, more clues. It's telling you. So now so neither man, Adamic man, or beast is supposed to taste anything. So this is a time of mourning. They're going to now mourn in sackcloth and ashes. I'm just asking you, open up your mind really to what's being said, even on the literal level. Seriously, it is. But see the hints to the deeper understandings, because they are so plain here. Taste anything. Do not let them eat. Do not let them eat anything or have any water or drink. So in other words, there's a total time of fasting, of mourning, of repenting. All right. Now, seriously, if we are talking about cattle, why would you do that? The cattle haven't done anything. They're just out there on the farm being cattle. You know, they're not disobeying Yahweh by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, we are talking about the pre-Adamic, the Gentiles that are living in this city, and the Adamite people. There's a lot of, you know, mixed multitude. This is the point. That we all living and growing and together, and so this is the context here. But now they're going to repent, so you got to make all of them. Yahweh's mad at all of them. Covered with sackcloth, both, again, man, Adamic, 120, and Behemah, 929, and cry to Yahweh. Why would cry to Elohim, how can you get a cattle, a real ox or a real sheep to, they don't even know their maker at that level. How are you going to get them to repent? Number one, they don't have anything to repent of. They're just being what they are. And they couldn't cry out. That's not this utterance. I looked up this word cry, and it's a much higher level. We're not talking about a cow mooing. We are talking about intelligent communication here. Knowingly, if you're going to repent, the part of a tikkun, you gotta knowingly and willingly understand what you did. This is a very conscious, cognitive act. Repentance is, okay? And mightily turn everyone from his way, from his evil way, and from the violence that is in his hands. We are talking about the Gentiles and the Adamic people that are in this city that have now, all of them have gotten off base, off Torah, okay? I don't know if there's more here. Let me just look at my notes here. Yes, I think that takes care of that one. Let's go again to Jonah 4:11. For some reason, there's something else there. To keep bringing this home, I've got about 3 or 4. We've got to go to a New Testament because Paul, oh my gosh, totally gets it. Okay, here we go. And this is the afterwards. Afterwards, Jonah's so upset because Yahweh had mercy on him. Why would Jonah be upset? I mean, there's a little, again, intuitive critically thinking, upset that he saved both man and beast in the city. I mean, again, unless they have the beast have more value. All right, but let me just go through this first. So Yahweh is saying to Jonah, why would I not have pity on this great city? And where are there more than 2,000, 10,000 persons? Let's see the translations. Persons, Adamites. Let's try to keep everything straight. We're trying to straighten out all the crooked places. We're not just talking about persons, all right? We're talking about the Adamites in the city who cannot discern between their right hand and their left hand, or the livestock, the behemoth. Neither one of them can. All right, now you cannot say that about animals. Animals do not have moral compasses to do what's right or wrong. They just shred the meat, whatever they just go and attack what's on their food chain. They don't have moral compasses to say, should I or shouldn't I? These levels of living do, okay? And the point is in here in all of this that, they had totally lost their moral compass, and they were coming under great judgment, both man and beast. This is what you're going to see in the later texts over and over again. Man and beast, Adams and the pre-Adamites, and they're all living together. And again, this is Paul Persia, they're all starting to crossbreed with each other again still too. That's why, Israel, the admonition is, always keep a pure bloodline. Judah, because look at, I'm sending a redeemer through one of these bloodlines. Somebody on the planet has to keep a pure bloodline. That's all part of the story too. Oh my gosh. All right, let's go to Hosea, because let me go to this one. I think I'm making my point. I'm going to do 2 more. Let me go to 1 Corinthians. Paul is under so much fire, because people just don't understand. Hold on a second. Let's see, one. Paul was so deep. He had so much understanding that, sometimes he's just not given credit for. And because he's on such a deep Kabbalistic level. I've said that so many times, but this one will show it to you. Okay. No, we don't need 2 15s in there. 39. First, I hope it goes there. All right. This is Paul giving a discourse on something, and he's trying out. You understand, Paul is talking to these Gentiles. This is his whole mission. See, this is the point where he gets, oh my gosh, the door, Yahweh has just flung open the door of covenant back out to all of the nations, all of these goyim, all of these, hybrid mixed multitude Gentiles, because for 2 reasons. A, because that's where now much of the seed of Ephraim, the northern, has gone out into these nations, and they have become Gentiles. They have totally mixed their seed with the nation. So now if you're going to get the lost sheep, you're going to get tons of Gentiles too, all in different. So, I mean, Yahweh, who knows the end from the beginning, it's a perfect plan, and it's time now. Paul gets this revelation, and he is up against a highly Jewish, he's up against two things. He's up against, well, but one of the things he's up against is a very highly pharisaical and Essene believers whose mind has been trained from birth for hundreds of years about keeping separate from these Gentiles. And to a large extent, for a lot of people at the time of Yeshua, they just couldn't make the leap fast enough, completely enough, to just get on the road and get going to telling the nations about this, what Yeshua, Messiah ben Yosef, who had just come with bread, bread, new life for them. Okay, so that's a big part of the story that needs to be understood, but I'm not going to try not to do these rabbit trails. Okay, but not all flesh is the same. Now, Paul is talking, now we're into Greek. See, the problem is we're all, Hebrew words I have totally down pat, it's good. Moving over into the Greek is a little bit, but this one is pretty easy to do because there's two words. Not all flesh, sarx, okay, is the same. Well, didn't that just what we kept going over in Living Souls in the Old Testament, that there's a behemoth, a pre-Adamic man, and then there's a Adamic man, but that not all flesh, they're not all the same? Okay, but there's one of men. So this word 444, anthropon, if you look it up, it tells you it is akin to the Hebrew word Adam. So this is used in the sense that so there's one flesh, there's one species out there of Adamic men. There's another that have flesh. Flesh is a word, sarx, and I think this would relate to the nephesh, that these have the nephesh of beasts. Okay? This is the same thing, bima. Then there's some that have the flesh of birds. Okay, now come on, he doesn't mean to give these people, these very intelligent Greeks who are so full of Aristotle and all these, a first grade biology lesson. Oh, look at the birds look different than the cattle, and everybody's got their own little kind of thing. No, these people are tracking with him. They understand a lot of this esoteric understanding because this is in a lot of Greek philosophy in many ways. Okay, so there's one flesh of birds, there's now a fish. So here we have all our categories. Paul is totally up to speed. He's explaining to people, yes, there's different living nephesh codes, so to speak. And I think, let me go back one because there was an important word. Yeah, see, so if we started out at the beginning, I should have started at 38. But yeah, Elohim, Theos, gives it a body, soma, because there's two words that are sarx and soma, which is like putting it together is the living nephesh. Everything eventually will make a vessel. This is one thing that's inherent in DNA. You take the DNA codes archetype, packed in there, and it eventually will produce something that has it's called the vehicle, but it's called the tabernacle, it's called the tent, it's called your outer covering, it's your vessel. And then it houses your operating systems. I mean, so here everything is going to eventually have a body to each one. These seeds, this is to each of these seeds, which is the word spermaton, which is again its own body. So everything is inherently coded. All these species which are supposed to reproduce at their kind are inherently coded with what will eventually give them their vessel. Now, there's just too much information to do this. We did this verse. Let's go to this one, because what I was going to do, and I forgot, I didn't get it. I'll have to add it again into some of the notes here. The Egyptians, this isn't going to explain a lot of hip Egyptian hieroglyphics and why on their heads these people have birds' heads, they have crocodile heads, they have beetle heads, they have jackal heads, which jackal is another word translated, refers to the the serpentine race, because these people are all, this is one of the ways in which they communicated pictographically the different species. Okay, it takes all the mystery out of everything. And again, when I go into unpack that a little bit more, what happens in how the pagan relate to the different species, so to speak, and how Adam, made in the image and likeness of Elohim, relates. There's a lot going on here, but this will explain why these Egyptian, a lot of these hieroglyphics work. Okay. So then Paul gets even more deep. There's heavenly bodies. See, we're just dealing with stuff made on the 5th and the 6th day. I haven't even touched on the stuff that was made day 1 through 4, which is, again, huge categories. Principalities, powers. I mean, we are talking about the primordials. We are talking about, oh my gosh, some of the most esoteric stuff, again, relating, but these celestial bodies. But he talks about these. See, these are we know, and I've been through a lot of this, angels, higher order angels that live in the higher heavens, that are known and coded as the luminaries. These have bodies. That's why a planet, that's why the luminaries and the sun and the moon are code words for the vessel body of the living souls, again, but living of that world and domain. See, it's hard to explain it really simply, but if you can track with me, so in what he's saying, there's heavenly bodies, there's heavenly soul life, so to speak, and then there's earthly. And like I've been in day 5 and 6, you get things that are more earthly. They're down here in the lower levels. This is all kind of the living that are in the lower levels. Okay, remember we got the upper waters and the lower waters. That 5 and 6 is sort of the lower waters. The other part, they're kind of in the upper waters. Okay, it's all ways in which they've geographically and are trying to keep everything straight. And there's another glory, one of the heavenly and one of the earthly. Okay, so glory refers to kind of its program, how sophisticated it can be. I mean, come on, look at the sun. Look at how sophisticated. Look what it does. It kind of grows everything. It's the focal point of everything. Okay, so that's Paul explaining this exact same mystical understanding to his audience. And then he goes on and says, how stars differ from another in glory, but which is their program. And then it goes into the resurrection of the dead, and he goes into immortality. And he says, yeah, everything is sown first in physicality, but it is eventually going to be sown in immortality, in a resurrection. And this is the point. So, again, there's more philosophy to this. I'm just trying to get people to understand this, and then, against the backdrop of the resurrection or different things. So let's just do one more. Let's do Zephaniah 1:2, and just, again, man and beast, because this is where the later prophets are just all over this. Well, let's go. The word of the Lord came to Zephaniah, and he's, I will utterly consume, and it's kind of it's really the word cut off. Again, this is judgment. There are times, this is the whole story, when the whole creation, the 6 species get so out of oil with each other, judgment has to happen, and he never does anything except he tells his prophets first to tell, Jonah had to go in and tell him, look at, your rolls, your numbers up, you better, the same thing. So here you've got Zephaniah talking, and he's saying that Yahweh's getting ready to cut off everything from the face of the land, and again, which is the ha'adamah, which is a word on the lower, again, on things that are really the souls of the 6th day, the 5th and the 6th day. Zephaniah 1:3 says, I will cut off man, 1:20, the Adamah man, and the beast, the 929s, these pre-Adamic people that aren't going to get with the program. I will consume, I will cut off the birds, again, of heaven. See, the birds of heaven, and again, we know this, the fallen angels, there was a category of watcher angels that were just a vibration a little bit higher because they are guardians than the Adamic man, but then they were able to still lower themselves, this is the whole point, into a form of lower themselves into an energy to become a man-like, in a sense, to stay here and to procreate. This is part of the storyline. So these things are very close. We're not talking about high-level angels, the holy Hayot or anything. We're talking about very close to, these are all things in the world really of Asiyah, and I think some of the level of Yetzirah, okay, that are interfacing and hybridizing with each other when they're not supposed to be. Okay, so this is what gets into forbidden mixtures that the text is always talking about. It's another way that a remez, a hint of something much deeper going on. But here again, Yahweh he's done. He's had it with the man, with the Adamic man, with the Biamas, the beast, and the birds, and the fish in the sea. There are stumbling blocks. They are wicked, and I'm just going to cut them off. From, again, he reiterates, from man, from the face of the land, says Yahweh. Okay? And really, and he said, judgment starts in the house of Elohim. So really and truly, you'll never really see, yes, he does judge the Gentiles sometimes, but if there are Adamites in there, believe me, he comes down first. That's why there's no partiality with Yahweh Elohim. Just look at the history of the exiles of Ephraim and Judah. I mean, there's really no partiality. If you're wicked, you're wicked, and you're going to pay. That's it, for all of his sons. So there's so much to this storyline. There's so much still to unpack. I do hope that you stayed with me. I hope this blessed you. I hope you're beginning to get it, what I'm saying. I think this is very unique and cutting edge. And I do hope that people will begin to dialogue with me on this. I am going to start soon. I always, a channel. I'm going to try to teach, and maybe I'm going to go to a paid prescription type thing, $25 a month, to where I can really begin to fundamentally and methodically, and so begin to flush out some of this information, especially starting with the tree of life, understanding this, because this is all meant to come out. And I think that I guess I'm tired. I probably shouldn't try to sum up what I'm trying to say. We're going places. This information is going places. So on that note, shalom, Shabbat shalom, blessings to you, and may Yahweh keep and preserve you. And listen, keep Torah. It's really very simple, and he will help you. Yahweh is merciful. The first thing you got to understand about Yahweh, he is merciful. He is patient, and he is kind. So on that note, shalom.